Therapy Came Alive. But now we're going to go into the world of dating. Do you want some tips to improve your relationships and your dating? Well, we have just the person for you, Anita Chapala. She's an international dating and relationship coach as well as a therapist. Let's welcome her to the show. Welcome, Anita.
Hi, Dr. Carlos. Nice to see you.
Nice seeing you. Thank you very much for doing this.
Yeah, thanks for having me on. Any opportunity I get to educate people about dating and helping them find love, I definitely appreciate it. So thank you.
It's a topic that's always relevant. So, Anita, how did you get involved in all this?
Well, I used to be a teacher in my early 20s, and I kind of figured it wasn't, what I wanted to do for a living, and I wasn't exactly sure what I wanted to do, but I ended up meeting a marriage and family therapist. I went to a talk about dating and relationships. I spoke with the presenter afterwards, and she told me that she went to grad school for marriage and family therapy and now practices as a therapist. And I thought, that's exactly what I want to do. I kind of felt like it was just this calling from the start where I wanted to work with couples, help them with their relationships and their marriages. And so I did end up going to the University of San Diego to get a master's in marital and family therapy. And then I came back to Chicago, got licensed as a marriage and family therapist, and then really just focused on couples work and have been doing couples therapy for about 10 years now. But then I started seeing, all the couples that started coming into my office, I'm like, they're the same problems over and over and over again.
Huh.
I mean, at this point, nothing shocks me anymore. And I thought, well, is there a way to prevent this from happening? And I am a research-based practice, and what that means is I don't give advice, to my clients based on my life. I look to the research I've been studying. Why do some couples stay together? Why do some couples divorce? I found that there are behaviors that predict divorce. There are behaviors that couples engage in that keep them together. And then I thought, well, what's the best opportunity or way to prevent this stuff from happening, the negativity and the unnecessary fighting and just breaking up and divorcing. And I thought, why don't I help singles? And so for the last, especially 2 to 3 years, I've been doing a lot of date coaching and helping singles really know what to look for, who is a good fit, and just giving them a lot of education about relationships, what it takes to make them work, to really set them, to really set them up in a good place to minimize, the possibility of divorce for them in the future.
It almost sounds like preventative medicine in a sense.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we live in an exciting time now where there's actually more research now about love than there's ever been before. My parents' generation, my grandparents, and before people, first people got married to procreate and pass on their genes. Then love, played a role. But now we can actually look at, I've told my clients from the beginning, love isn't enough to sustain a relationship. As much as we want to think about that and, that romantic notion of love, it's just not enough because I have so many clients that, are madly in love on their wedding day. And I'm like, how do you end up sitting on my couch, hating each other, or being on the brink of divorce? And so, anything I can do to prevent unnecessary divorce, I will do.
So let's get to the dating tips. What are some of the things you're telling people to look for in others?
Well, the one thing that I think I see a lot of is that people think that there's always someone better. And I think with the increase of dating apps, there's a new dating app coming out all the time, that people think that there's this endless supply of, singles, or that, if one thing doesn't work out with someone or they don't like one little thing about, the person that they're dating, oh, I don't need this, I could go find someone else. And so one of the biggest things that I, tell my clients is you have to pick what you can live with and what you can live, without. You have your deal breakers and things like that, but, someone might drink too much. Another person might be chronically late. Another person might, spend more money than you're willing to, do yourself. But you can't get everything in one person. It's impossible. And so as you're dating, really finding out what is the most important to you. What are the core either needs, that you have, and be able to, define them, know what they look like, because then it gives you focus in dating versus, oh, I don't like this one little thing, and then I'm going to go off and find someone else, because you'll always be single with that latter approach.
That's a great
So,
advice.
yeah, I mean, I see it over and over again, and the people are like, they come in and they're like, what's wrong with me? I'm like, well, there's nothing wrong with you. It's just your thinking and your behaviors that gets in the way. But you as a person, there's nothing wrong. And I don't, I mean, I love online dating, but I just think it's a double-edged sword that people are not using it as a, maybe like they're not using it as maybe as it should be intended, but as it could, be used in a way to help people find love versus, chasing that carrot, where's that perfect person?
Yeah, I think that's where the movies and TV shows sometimes hurt us a little bit because you always
Yeah.
see the ending of the movie. They're all happy and they're riding away on their horse towards their castle. But we don't see the story 5 years later or 4 years later when the honeymoon's over.
Yeah, and relationships take natural dips. But I also work with clients who just started a relationship or have only been in a relationship for a few months. And one of the like myths I hear, the misperceptions is, well, we shouldn't be fighting, or there shouldn't be conflict, or we should see eye to eye. And so, to your point, it's like there's not this riding off into the sunset in this relationship. And I go, well, that's normal, right? And I just see people discard, pretty good relationships for no reason, and it's being able to manage those differences that really makes a difference. And so that's why, like, I mean, relationship education, I think, is so needed in our country, to teach people like, hey, this is a good fit. You're about to throw away a good relationship, because the next person you date, kind of what I said before, what can you live with? You're going to find someone else who is going to have a different set of problems, and are you okay with that?
Yeah, we hear that a lot. Is that resonate with those people when you tell them that, look, this person has their own luggage, you're going to move into somebody else who has their luggage as well? Does that resonate with them?
It does. I think people actually tell me that they feel some relief because, I think they don't know if their expectations are realistic or not. And so when I tell them, I'm like, oh yeah, that's normal. Or sometimes, I tell them, look, you'd have to date your clone in order for you to be on the same page, which is what a lot of people tell me. I'm like, you don't have to be on the same page. One of the beauties of not being on the same page is that you two are two different people and you bring your own stuff to the relationship. And it's how you manage those differences. And what's more important than having differences is that you honor and respect each other. If you find someone who honors and respects you, especially when you don't see eye to eye, that's a keeper.
Let me
Because
ask you,
that's such,
go ahead.
okay.
You were mentioning earlier myths, and I wanted to tackle one of those myths right now if we could. Everybody, we're speaking to Anita Chapala, International Dating and Relationship Coach, LMFT as well. Anita, sometimes we hear this, opposites attract. Is it better to get involved with somebody who's the opposite of you or somebody who's actually more similar to you?
Yeah, opposites attract is a myth. I mean, research shows that like attracts like. But I've had couples who, they'll say, well, one of the reasons why I fell in love with him was because he was so spontaneous, and then, like, let's say the wife is, likes planning, likes things organized, and then she falls in love with someone who's a spontaneous adventurer. And so then she tries to get him to be more like her. That's when the problems arise. But if you find someone who's opposite of you, it doesn't necessarily mean a relationship with them wouldn't work, but it goes back to my point with you have to have really realistic expectations about what this would look like in a relationship. So if you're a planner and you're dating someone who loves spontaneity, be prepared for spontaneous moments in your relationship, and that you're not going to be able to get that person to, not be spontaneous because that's who they are and they're not going to change. And so it does attract like a lot more, but if you do find someone and you fall in love with someone who's opposite, please practice, the mindset of how can I accept you and how can I respect you and not, honor who you are while still getting what's most important to me. I do need, let's say, some need for security, like knowing something in advance. Can you help me meet my needs so I can still honor you? And that's really the, at a very, very basic level, because we don't have that much time, but is super important in order to make a relationship work, especially if you're opposites.
I do have actually a question from the viewers, if you're ready.
Yeah,
We have
absolutely.
Tyler. He's sending us a question from, where is he from? Oh, nearby you. He's over there in Michigan. He wants to know, does it matter, is age difference really that big of a deal? The girl he's dating right now for the past 6 months is about 15 years younger. He is 39, she's 24.
I think what's more important than the actual age difference is the communication that two people have about it. Because I've had couples, or just even working with individual clients that come in with a large age gap, and they don't talk about the necessary things. So, being in your late 30s, dating someone in your mid 20s, do you talk about, like, are either of you worried about getting looks on the street? Does that affect your self-esteem or her self-esteem? Do you have things in common or to talk about? Do you have similar values? Like, what are the most important things for you? Like, I don't really care about an age difference, but as long as it works in the relationship and you have open dialogue about potential differences or areas of, conflict.
Interesting. Good advice. We're looking for Robin. It's an interesting question Robin has. She's actually married.
Okay.
She lives over in New York. It sounds like a prototypical New York kind of lifestyle here. Let's see what you think. She says she's been married for about 7 years. Their marriage is just fine. There's nothing really wrong. She wants to know, though, is there something potentially possible to being wrong? And when she says she sees her husband maybe once a week, they're both traveling a lot. They've been doing this for, I guess, years. And they meet up, they go out to dinner and whatnot when they do meet up once or twice a week. Is that normal? Is it okay, even though it's not a normal relationship where you're spending a lot of time together, she says?
Yeah, I mean, if like Robin and her husband are okay, like that's the expectation, and they don't get hurt by not spending more time together, then absolutely. I don't think there's a normal in a relationship, as long as it works for both people. So like if like what wouldn't work is, let's say if she had this big desire for a lot of quality time with her husband, then she would probably be feeling disconnected and unloved. But if that works, then that's fine. My only recommendation is to maybe have communication with your husband about, hey, does this work for you? Like, do you feel connected to me? Do I feel connected to you? Is there anything that we can do during our limited time together to make us feel even closer to each other? It's like, for example, quality time I think is important, but sometimes couples just veg in front of the TV, and that doesn't do anything for, to build intimacy or to make them feel closer. So with the little time that they do have, I would recommend a conversation about, is there anything else that we can do to make us feel more connected? Or sometimes it's just the little things on a daily basis. So do they feel like they text enough? Are they in contact enough in other ways like Skyping or FaceTiming, or even kind of going old school and sending, cards in the mail or letters in the mail just to, change things up. But there's no normal. And so as long as they're both, happy with the situation, then it's fine. But if they want more, then they could talk about it.
Great advice. Anita Chapala, International Dating and Relationship Coach. Anita, where can we get more information about you?
Well, you could check out my website, relationshipreality312.com, and I am on Facebook. I'm on Instagram and Twitter. My handle is @AnitaOnLove.
Anita on Love is the handle, and it's Relationship Reality 312?
Yes. I love Chicago, so I had to add the Chicago area code.
So it's relationshipreality312.com. You can find her at Anita on Love at Twitter. Thank you so much, Anita, for being here.
All right. Thanks, Carlos. I appreciate it.
Thank you very much. Once again, Anita Chapala, International Dating and Relationship Coach. You can find her at relationshipreality312.com.